Back in the Cambrian geological period, the first predators appeared in the depths of the world's oceans. Some of them climbed to the very top of the food pyramid. It's believed that some creatures came out of the water to escape these super predators. But the evolutionary arms race continued under new conditions of existence. After some time, creatures appeared here too, which can safely be called the masters of prehistoric land. In this issue, we'll talk about such animals and try to understand whether they were all predators. Or, in order to rule the planet, you don't have to eat everyone around you. Subscribe to the Age of Dinosaurs channel, and then you'll be the first to know about the release of new episodes. We also ask everyone to share your opinions in the comments and support the channel with likes. Your activity helps promote our videos according to the platform's algorithms and gives other science enthusiasts the opportunity to see them. The Carboniferous period can be safely called the kingdom of arthropods, the ancestors of modern spiders and scorpions, who until recently terrified the underwater world, began to actively conquer land. Many amphibians and emerging reptiles were easy prey for giant pulmonoscorpions. At that time, insects had quite impressive dimensions. This is due to the higher concentration of oxygen in the atmosphere. The respiratory and circulatory systems of arthropods under these conditions could work more efficiently than they do now. This made it possible to provide oxygen to such large creatures. Pulmonoscorpion, or Pulmonoscorpium, according to the latest data, could have a body length of up to 70 centimeters. At the same time, they could not have large claws. It's believed that these predators relied more on their poisonous sting when hunting. Claws were more often used to cut up helpless prey. These hunters lived in Scotland approximately 338 million years ago. They were described in 1994 by paleontologist Andrew Jerome. At the junction of the Carboniferous and Permian periods, another giant animal lived in Europe and North America. It was a centipede up to 2.5 meters long, called the arthropods. However, scientists still continue to argue about its actual size. But even if the arthropods was 2 times smaller, its appearance and length are still respectable. In any case, a species of giant centipede, called Arthropods armata, is the largest invertebrate land animal in the history of the planet. All found fossils of this creature are between 315 and 290 million years old. It's believed that these armored giants weighed up to 50 kilograms. It's unlikely that they had many natural enemies. Their body were protected by many interconnected plates. Each plate covered one of the body segments with a pair of legs. With such dimensions, the centipede had from 112 to 128 legs. The biggest mystery for scientists still remains the diet of arthropods. The fact is that not a single fossil has been discovered with an imprint of the oral apparatus of this giant centipede. It's believed that all the remains found are parts of discarded external skeletons. Like many of its relatives, arthropods shed their old armor as it grew and acquired a new one. But still, scientists believe that these creatures had large and powerful mandibles. They most likely ate mainly plant foods or carrion. Only adults could hunt smaller animals. It's also believed that the arthropods could function as modern butterflies. As the centipede moved through the thickets, it touched plants, and their spores fell to the ground or the back of the animal, so plants of that time could spread to different places. But in the Permian period, the climate on the planet began to change rapidly, and the arthropods gave up their positions. The main predators and the largest herbivores were the so-called beast lizards, or synapsids. Even at the end of the Carboniferous, they were practically no different from their relatives, diapsids. The main difference was the number of temporal foramina in the skull. As the name suggests, diapsids had 2, and synapsids had 1. But these groups took completely different paths than their evolutionary development, and if not for the Great Permian Extinction, no one would have known about any dinosaurs. Synapsids became the real masters of the planet for many millions of years. They acquired a developed jaw apparatus and became warm-blooded. Their limbs began to be located almost under the body, and not on the sides of it. This made them faster and more agile. It's believed that the most recent animal lizards already had the prerequisites for the transition from laying eggs to viviparity. Also, some of the representatives of this group were covered with wool. All these characteristics gave the synapsids a good chance for further development. Less developed cold-blooded diapsids were moved away from rich food resources and lived in desert and semi-desert zones. Among the largest and most powerful animals of that time, several rather interesting groups can be distinguished. The earliest representatives are Biarmosicus. These primitive animal lizards, like many other predatory synapsids, belong to the therapsid order. They lived on our planet approximately 267 million years ago. Their remains were discovered in Russia, in the Perm territory, the Udmurt Republic, and the Arkhangelsk region. Biarmosis was described in 1960 by Peter Chudanov. Some researchers classify it as a Gorgonops, and some as a Dinocephalus. The length of these predators did not exceed 1.5 meters. They, like many other carnivorous lizards, had elongated upper fangs. In fact, it was these creatures that became the first saber-toothed predators on Earth. Some signs suggest that the Biarmosicus could lead a semi-aquatic lifestyle. They may have been fast and agile pack hunters. Now, you may have a legitimate question. Why can such small animals be called the masters of the sushi of their time? It's worth noting that there were no truly gigantic animals in the Permian period, and even such small animals could be the dominant predators in their habitat, especially if they lived in packs. But theories regularly arise among scientists that the Biarmosicus is not a separate species of animal, but an adolescent stage of development of a larger creature. This animal was named Eotitanosuchus. Its length could reach 4 meters, and its weight exceeded 100 kilograms. If Biarmosicus occupied the ecological niche of modern wolves or jackals, then Eotitanosuchus was a real super predator. At the moment, scientists have at their disposal only one incomplete skeleton of this giant. It was found in the same places where Biarmosicus lived, in the village of Yezovo, Perm territory. Near the same settlement, the remains of creatures were found that, most likely, were the main prey of Biarmosicus and Eotitans. This herbivore is called Estaminaza, and they were all described in 1960 by the same Pyotr Chudanov. The two species of these animals he described were subsequently recognized as one species. It's just that younger individuals did not have pronounced growths on their heads. But still, in the classification of these herbivores, there are now two species, Estaminazacus ural and Estaminazacus amazing. If you believe modern reconstructions, these creatures actually looked amazing. Imagine a 4-meter hippopotamus with fangs and growths on its head. These growths were located both on the top of the head and on the sides of the animal's muzzle. In some ways, they resemble the collars of the later Triceratops. The lateral growths on the skull of Estaminazacus made their heads equal in length and width. Estaminazacus are representatives of another group of synapsids, Dinocephalians. Most of them were carnivores or omnivores. By the standards of the Permian period, there were real giants among them. According to some researchers, the largest representatives of this group could reach 5 meters in length and weigh about 2 tons. A typical representative of the Dinocephalian suborder was the Deuterosaurus. They lived in the Urals in Siberia. The first finds were made on the territory of Bashkiria in the mid-19th century. This animal was described by the Russian naturalist of German origin, Eduard Eichwald, in 1860. Judging by the structure of the teeth, this Dinocephalus was not a pronounced predator. In fact, in the Siberian ecosystems of the Permian period, it performed the function of modern bears. With a body length of up to 2.5 meters and the presence of powerful jaws, they were the rightful owner of the Siberian forests of their time. It's believed that all Dinocephalians turned out to be a dead-end branch of evolution and left no descendants. But the real masters of the land of the Permian period are Gorgonopsians, who appeared approximately 259 million years ago. This suborder has more than 20 genera. Its representatives lived in the territory of modern Europe, Asia, and Africa. Among them were both very small animals and the largest predators of their time. A separate issue is dedicated to these unusual animals on our channel. From it, you can find out why Gorgonopsids became the most advanced predators of their era. After the Permian extinction, giant reptiles became the masters of the planet for almost 200 million years. And, of course, dinosaurs became the rulers of the land. In different parts of the Earth and in different geological periods, the main predators were large carnivorous theropods. These were animals that walked on 2 legs and had powerful jaws. Smaller theropods hunted in packs and posed a serious threat to many herbivores, although the largest of them appeared only towards the end of the Cretaceous period. Among the most terrible predators of the era of dinosaurs are the following animals. Carcharodontosaurus, a genus of North African theropods from the late Cretaceous period, which had a length of more than 13 meters and a mass of up to 15 tons. Giganotosaurus, lived in South America approximately 97 to 98 million years ago. They grew up to 13 meters in length, possibly hunted as part of a pack. Spinosaurus had a length of up to 15 meters and a mass of more than 7.5 tons. They lived in North Africa from 112 to 93 million years ago, and they were most likely a piscivore. Tyranotitan, another representative of South America, which had a length of more than 12 meters and a height of up to 4 meters and a mass of about 5 tons. This list can also include mammals, carnivores, pterosaurs, and dozens of other large predators. But the most formidable of them remains the Tyrannosaurus. Some theropods were longer or taller, but the T-Rex was the most massive of the largest predators of the age of dinosaurs. The timing of this video doesn't allow us to describe each of these unique dinosaurs in more detail, but all of them have repeatedly been the heroes of various episodes of our channel. We should not forget about the other giants of the era of dinosaurs, sauropods. These long-necked dinosaurs can also lay claim to the title of masters of the prehistoric land. In all respects, they were superior to the largest predators of that time, and it's very doubtful that any of the theropods actively hunted adult healthy specimens of Argentinosaurus or Patagotitan. These multi-ton giants were not even particularly interested in what was happening under their feet. A similar situation is observed now. There's no more formidable predator on the African savanna than the lion. But a pride of lions will only attack adult elephants if they sense that their prey is vulnerable. Therefore, elephants that survive to adulthood due to their invulnerability can feel like the same kings of the land as large predators. Also, we could say the same about such a group of animals as crocodilomorphs. They cannot be fully considered the rulers of sushi, but it's difficult to find more suitable representatives for the title of masters of ancient freshwater bodies. For example, in Africa and South America, at the end of the Cretaceous period, such super predators were Sarcosidae. These giant crocodiles grew up to 9 meters and weighed 2 to 3 tons. North America had its own crocodilomorphs, Dinosaurs. They had a length of up to 10 to 12 meters and a body weight of up to 8.5 tons. True, only the smallest species of crocodiles managed to survive the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction. But even now, their descendants terrify both animals living near bodies of water or in the water, and people. After the disappearance of dinosaurs, for a short time the most formidable predators became giant flightless birds. Phororhacos. The largest representatives of this family lived in Argentina from 13 to 20 million years ago. They were about 3 meters tall and weighed up to 300 kilograms. These birds ran no slower than small ungulates and could inflict very serious wounds with their massive beaks. Then, almost throughout the entire planet, mammals began to occupy the upper steps of the food pyramid. These were saber-toothed tigers, giant short-faced bears, carnivorous pigs, entelodonts, and many other predators. Among the herbivorous giants, we can recall mammoths and woolly rhinoceroses, Gigantopithecus, as well as Indracotherium, the largest land mammal in history. For a long time, reptiles tried to compete with mammals for the title of the planet's top predators. They were especially successful in this in South America and Australia. Examples include the giant snake Titanoboa and the huge monitor lizard Megalania. Titanoboa lived in the territory of modern Colombia 58 to 60 million years ago. It was up to 13 meters long and weighed more than a ton. Megalania lived in Australia from 1.6 million to 40,000 years ago. Theoretically, this monitor lizard, 5.5 meters long and weighing up to half a ton, could hunt the first people who settled the continent. Then the legends about dragons immediately have another possible source. And now, in South America, there are quite large anacondas that may be descendants of Titanoboa. And on several islands of the Pacific Ocean, Komodo dragons live, which are still the most dangerous predators there. Now, the largest land predators in different regions are polar bears, as well as brown and large cats. Among herbivores, ungulates are large in size, elephants, rhinoceroses, giraffes, moose, and buffaloes. But the top of the food pyramid is now occupied by the most dangerous and cruel predator, man. This strange primate is not distinguished by its large size or huge fangs, but none of the modern living beings are able to compete with it on equal terms. And even huge monsters from the era of dinosaurs or later eras could defeat people at their current level of development. At the same time, man is not able, due to the peculiarities of our evolution, to rise above all this fuss. like the giant sauropods or indricotheres from the past. Cruelty and gluttony are inherent in man by nature, and man cannot behave differently. As is known, the first living organisms on Earth originated in water. Therefore, it was in the seas and oceans that after some time, the first predators appeared. And among them, in different eras, were the real masters of the underwater world. They belonged to different classes and families. Some of them even originated from land creatures that returned to the water. Today, we'll talk about the most interesting and largest aquatic creatures of different eras. Let's also try to figure out why they occupied the upper steps of the food pyramid. Subscribe to the Age of Dinosaurs channel. This will allow you to be the first to know when new videos are published, and with the help of your comments and likes, we can develop the channel further. Your activity also promotes the video in the site's recommendation system and allows as many people as possible to learn about our channel. Until a certain time, there was no division among animals into predators and herbivores. The Ediacaran period is sometimes even compared on this basis to the biblical paradise, where all animals lived in peace with each other. But by the beginning of the Cambrian period, the evolution had divided all the inhabitants of the ocean into hunters and their prey. And the largest predator known to us, without a doubt, was Anomalocaris. Its name means unusual shrimp, but in fact, this arthropod has nothing to do with modern shrimp. According to various estimates, the body length of Anomalocaris could range from 38 to 100 centimeters. Some researchers claim that they could even grow up to 2 meters. With the help of lateral lobes and a flat, wide tail, these predators could swim above the ocean floor in search of prey. To control such a complex swimming mechanism, a very developed brain was required for those times. Long frontal appendages that acted as jaws made it possible to grab smaller animals and move them into the oral cone. Also, this super predator of the Cambrian seas had very developed vision. Scientists estimate that their vision were 30 times more powerful than that of trilobites. Namely, they were most likely the main food of Anomalocaris, although they could well eat their smaller relatives. All these adaptations and large size made Anomalocaris the most formidable predator of its time. Judging by the remains found, these creatures lived almost over the globe. At the moment, only 2 species have been described, but there are suggestions that there were at least 10 of them. It's just that not all available remains have been fully studied yet. But after a few tens of millions of years, mollusks entered the race for the upper steps of the food pyramid, and such a creature as Cambrian managed to achieve serious results. This ancestor of modern squids and octopuses lived in conical shells up to 10 meters long. Hidden inside such a shell was a powerful beak capable of crushing the most durable shells. To capture prey, this monster used tentacles more than 1 meter long. Cambrian lived in the seas of the Ordovician period, approximately 446 to 470 million years ago. Their traces have been found in Europe and both American continents. It's believed that as the organism grew, these mollusks gradually completed their shell. The free space was filled with some kind of gas that helped maintain the buoyancy of this huge tower. This is exactly how the shell of nautiluses that have survived to this day are constructed. Such a mechanism didn't allow fast swimming and maneuvering. Therefore, it's assumed that Cambrian used ambush tactics. True, in recent years, more and more researchers have expressed the opinion that they were not predators at all. Based on some signs, it could be assumed that these mollusks fed exclusively on plankton, and they did not have a beak. Despite this, Cambrian can still be called the masters of the seas and oceans of their time. It's doubtful that there were animals at that time capable of actively hunting such armored giants. But simultaneously with mollusks, arthropods continued to develop in the seas and oceans of the Paleozoic. The most effective predators among them were crustacean scorpions. The first of them appeared in the Cambrian period, and in the period from 470 to 410 million years ago, they reached their peak. That is, for 100 million years, cancer scorpions reigned in all the seas of the planet. The largest of them grew more than 2.5 meters in length. For such giants, everything that swam in the water and crawled along the bottom was easy prey. The body of the scorpion cancer was protected by powerful armor. Huge claws easily cut through the shells of other animals. At the same time, they were good swimmers. For this purpose, their hind limbs had a special shape. Later, only the smallest varieties remained, and even those moved to freshwater bodies of water. And after the Great Permian Extinction, not a single crustacean scorpion remained on Earth. Only those of them who managed to move to land were lucky. They gave rise to all living arachnids. During the dominance of crustaceans, the ancestors of modern fish also suffered from them. But already in the Devonian period, it was fish that became the dominant creatures in all seas and oceans. And the most terrible monster of that time can be considered Dunkleosteus. This fish became the first megapredator among vertebrates. Even the sharks that had already appeared during the existence of Dunkleosteus could not compete with it for the title of Master of the Ocean. According to various estimates, their length ranged from 6 to 9 meters, and later studies showed that the largest specimen found was slightly more than 4 meters in length. It's quite difficult to reliably estimate the size of Dunkleosteus. Most of the found skeletons of this fish are barely a quarter preserved. Scientists mainly have their heads and jaws at their disposal. Dunkleosteus is a gnathostome fish. In the seas of the Devonian period, the presence of full jaws in living creatures was very rare. Even in Dunkleosteus, there were 2 self-sharpening bone plates. This formidable predator also had no teeth at all. Therefore, it's believed that Dunkleosteus simply bit its prey in half. Only their larger relatives could pose a danger to these armored living torpedoes. Perhaps this predator used another interesting method of hunting. Research has shown that Dunkleosteus could open its terrible mouth in 20 milliseconds. This allowed him to draw in a large volume of water along with all living organisms at a terrible speed. Nowadays, some types of perch use a similar method. The fossilized remains of these fish are found in the USA, Canada, Morocco, Russia, and some European countries. Their age ranges from 358 to 382 million years. Currently, scientists have described about 10 species of these predatory fish. Only the Permian extinction put an end to their dominance in the seas. Together with Dunkleosteus, a huge number of representatives of marine fauna became extinct at the beginning of the Triassic period, and land dwellers began to take their place. Dinosaurs were just beginning to dominate there, and the lizards that moved into the water gave rise to a large number of diverse marine animals. Among these reptiles, there were many new rulers of the deep sea. Ichthyosaurs became the threat of the seas of the Triassic period. Some of them were adapted for fishing, others ate large animals, including their relatives. Among them, there were many real giants. One of these predators was the Thalatorchan. They lived in what are now the United States between 242 and 247 million years ago. Its length was about 8.5 meters. According to researchers, this ichthyosaur was one of the first Triassic creatures capable of feeding on prey of a similar size to itself. This style of feeding is commonly called macrophage feeding. The appearance of such predators just a few million years after the global extinction indicates the rapid restoration of the aquatic ecosystem. Another type of large ichthyosaur from the early Triassic period was Symbospondylus. Their name was a combination of words meaning bowl and vertebra. According to one version, it occurred due to the fact that miners in Nevada, where this lizard was discovered, used its vertebrae as plates. Different types of these sea lizards had a length from 4 to 10 meters, but the largest species of Symbospondylus grew up to even 17 meters. Their body was not yet fully adapted for swimming. The head of this predator could exceed 1 meter in length. The mouth had an elongated shape and was studded with small, sharp teeth. This made it possible to retain caught fish and shellfish, as well as grind the shells of various arthropods. But for swimming, Symbospondylus used a long, flattened tail, like modern iguanas or sea snakes. These early ichthyosaurs had not yet developed normal caudal and dorsal fins. And in the Jurassic period, ideal marine predators appeared in the shallow seas. Plesiosaurs. This order includes more than a dozen families, divided into 2 groups. Fish-eating plesiosaurs had a long neck and a relatively small head, and the more versatile pliosaurs had a large mouth and a short, powerful neck. But among the representatives of both groups, there were quite large creatures. For example, it was previously believed that one of the largest pliosaurs, Liopleurodon, weighed up to 150 tons and grew up to 25 meters. Later studies showed that the largest plesiosaurids only grew to 13 meters in length. When swimming, they used 4 lateral flippers, like modern sea turtles. To test their capabilities, a special robot was even designed that used a similar method for swimming. As a result, it turned out that the simultaneous flapping of the fins allowed the lizards to develop greater speed, and movements with different limbs allowed for quick maneuvers. It's noteworthy that Plesiosaurus, unlike their land and flying relatives, did not lay eggs. They were viviparous. This allowed them to not go to land and become more adapted to life in the water. The first plesiosaurs appeared approximately 203 million years ago, and they went extinct along with the dinosaurs about 66 million years ago. Towards the end of the Cretaceous period, new contenders for the title of Masters of the Ocean appeared. These were mosasaurs. At the moment, at least 5 species that belong to this family are known. These were large sea lizards with large skulls and powerful jaws. Their length ranged from 10 to 17 meters. The largest of them could weigh up to 15 tons. The remains of mosasaurs have been found on all continents, including Antarctica. This indicates their distribution throughout all the oceans of the planet. Like other described aquatic reptiles, mosasaurs descended from some land lizards. Their legs evolved into flippers. Moreover, the forelimbs were longer than the hind limbs. It's believed that these predators wriggled while swimming, like modern eels. Most mosasaurs were adapted to feed on fish, but the larger ones could well have hunted plesiosaurs and their smaller relatives. Scientists have also found shells of ancient turtles with traces of teeth. Perhaps these marks were left by mosasaurs. After the end of the era of dinosaurs and to this day, sharks and cetaceans compete for primacy in the seas and oceans. And if the first ones appeared in the Devonian period, then the second ones repeated the path of plesiosaurs, ichthyosaurs, and mosasaurs. The ancestors of whales were land mammals that lived in the coastal zone. Basilosaurs can be considered the most successful among ancient whales. Even though their name means royal lizard, basilosaurs were mammals. At first, the skeletons of these ancient cetaceans were mistaken for the remains of snake-like creatures. Their length was estimated at 30 meters. It's now believed that the largest basilosaurs grew only to 15 to 20 meters. At the same time, they were still larger in size than most aquatic inhabitants. Therefore, for several million years, basilosaurs were the dominant predators of the Earth's seas and oceans. Their fossilized remains are found in North America, the Middle East, and North Africa. These fossils are estimated to be 34 to 40 million years old. Essentially, basilosaurs are an intermediate link between land ungulates and modern whales. Their body acquired such enormous length due to elongated vertebrae, which may have been filled with fluid inside. It's believed that basilosaurs curved their bodies when swimming. Their hind limbs can only take 2 positions and could hardly help when moving in water. In terms of their internal structure, they are vestigial legs. Some scientists suggest that these limbs, up to 60 centimeters long, perform the same functions as those of modern boa constrictors. They're used to holding the partner during mating. In modern whales, these hind limbs are almost completely absent. The breathing hole in basilosaurs was located much closer to the head. As cetaceans evolved, it moved to the back. There's also considerable debate among scientists about whether basilosaurs could dive as deep as modern whales. It's believed that there's not enough space in their skull to accommodate sound location organs. Therefore, most likely they lived in the upper layers of water. The prey of basilosaurs included various types of fish and shellfish, as well as sharks, which were much smaller than these ancient whales. Despite that, sharks appeared about 400 million years ago. Since those times, they have not changed much in evolutionary terms. The size of these predatory cartilaginous fish changed mainly from era to era. They tried to compete with gnathostomes in the Devonian period, lived next to the aquatic lizards of the Mesozoic, and hid from predatory basilosaurs at the junction of the Paleogene and Eocene. But 28 million years ago, a super predator appeared among sharks. We are, of course, talking about the megalodon. This giant shark, according to some estimates, could be up to 20 meters long. Now, cetacean mammals have become easy prey for the megalodon, but about 2.5 million years ago, these giants went extinct. Perhaps the separation of the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans forced the whales to migrate to colder waters, and megalodons were adapted to life in warm water and were unable to follow their prey. This forced them to feed on their own young. Total cannibalism led to the rapid degeneration of these predators. There's also the opinion that they could not withstand competition with more organized killer whales or even their relatives, white sharks. Now these animals are the dominant predators of the world's oceans. Among the predatory cetaceans, one can recall sperm whales, and among sharks, the whale shark can be noted. Considering the maximum adaptability of sharks to life in water and the duration of their existence on the planet, it can be assumed that they will outlive both modern whales and people. Or perhaps some new predator will decide to follow the path of ancient lizards and whales, returning from land to the ocean. And then in the future, the seas and oceans of our planet will have new owners. Since the appearance of the first predatory animals on our planet, the struggle for the title of the most dangerous creature began. This race continued after life reached land, but some animals decided that they should begin to explore the airspace. After this, the struggle for the upper levels of the food pyramid also spread to the sky. And today, we'll talk about those animals that became the real masters of the sky of their time. Subscribe to our channel so you'll know about the release of new videos before others. We also encourage all our viewers to actively support the Age of Dinosaurs channel with likes and comments. This will help in the development of the channel and will allow our releases to be seen by as many users as possible. The first animals that began to explore the airspace were arthropods. And among them, undoubtedly, the most formidable predator was the giant dragonfly, Meganora. According to various estimates, its wingspan reached 60 to 70 centimeters. In earlier studies, this parameter was estimated even at 1 meter. For the Carboniferous period, this flying predator was a real monster. Although debates about the lifestyle, diet, and other behavioral features of the Meganora are still ongoing, there's also a lot of controversy about the size of insects of that time. Some scientists express the opinion that with such dimensions, Meganora simply could not fly. But don't forget that 300 million years ago, the oxygen content in the atmosphere was much higher. The primitive respiratory system of insects could work much more efficiently than it does now. In addition, we only know about Meganora from imprints on fossils, and some details of the structure of their body may be unknown to modern scientists. The habitat of these giant dragonflies was humid jungles and wetlands. Moreover, scientists are not entirely sure whether the Meganora larvae led an aquatic lifestyle, like modern dragonflies, but data suggests that the larvae were large in size, had a high speed of movement, and were no less voracious than adults. And given the size of this dragonfly, its prey wasn't just only other insects. It's quite possible that the Meganora's diet included small fish and amphibians. Gradually, arthropods began to lose their leading position, and in the Permian period, animal lizards began to move to the first positions. The most advanced group of that time were the synapsids. They became the ancestors of dinosaurs, crocodiles, and other reptiles. And it was among the synapsids that the first reptiles appeared and began to master flight. These pioneers were the Weigeltosaurus. The first fossils of these unusual lizards were discovered in Germany. Similar finds were also made in Madagascar, the British Isles, and Russia. Many parts of the body of Weigeltosaurus were arranged almost the same as those of modern lizards, but in addition, they had a unique mechanism, which scientists call a flying membrane. This is the first that this device has been found. The flying membrane consisted of sets of side rods connected by membranes. Recent studies show that in their structure, these outgrowths are osteoderms and resemble elements of the shell of modern crocodiles. Of course, with the help of such a simple mechanism, it was impossible to fly in the full sense of the word. Most likely, Weigeltosaurus only glided from one tree to another. The real masters of the sky appeared on Earth only with the advent of the era of dinosaurs. They became pterosaurs, a group of flying lizards related to dinosaurs. Most of them ate exclusively fish, but among them, at different times, truly gigantic creatures still appeared. Some of them should be discussed in more detail. Dimorphodon. The increase in the size of flying lizards was gradual, and the largest of them appeared closer to the end of the Cretaceous period. Therefore, Dimorphodon and its relatives can be considered the lords of the sky of the early Jurassic period. The name of this pterosaur means two kinds of teeth. The name was given to it in 1859 by naturalist Richard Owen. Since the division of teeth according to shape and purpose is extremely uncharacteristic for reptiles, the body length of Dimorphodon was about 1 meter, and the wingspan was about 145 centimeters. Caelestibintis. In 2018, an even earlier representative of the Dimorphodonid family was described. The celestial's beak contained teeth of as many as 3 different types. This pterosaur, large by Triassic standards, lived in the state of Utah in the USA. Its wingspan was about 1.5 meters. Like other members of the family, the Caelestibintis had an elongated skull with a large beak. Their nostrils were triangular in shape and located close to their eyes. It was also one of the few pterosaurs that could look forward rather than to the sides. Rhamphorhynchus. The niche now occupied by seabirds like gulls was occupied by Rhamphorhynchus in the Jurassic. It's believed that this family included 3 species: but some scientists express the opinion that all the found remains could belong to representatives of the same species of different ages. There are studies confirming this hypothesis for Rhamphorhynchus found in Germany. Also, traces of the presence of these pterosaurs have been found almost throughout Europe and North Africa. They lived from 162 to 145 million years ago. The wingspan of the largest individuals could reach almost 2 meters. Like all piscivorous pterosaurs, Rhamphorhynchus had an elongated beak with sharp, long teeth. A distinctive feature of this family was a long tail with a diamond-shaped tassel at the end. Pterodactyl. This species of flying lizard became the first pterosaur discovered in the history of science. 2 separate finds were made in Germany at the end of the 18th century. At different times, these fossils were attributed either to flying creatures, then to extinct crustaceans, or to winged mammals like bats. Over the next 200 years, all pterosaurs found were classified as pterodactyls. The approach to their classification changed only at the beginning of the 20th century. At the moment, only 2 species are considered pterodactyls. These small pterosaurs were distributed throughout Europe and Africa during the Jurassic period, approximately 150 to 165 million years ago. The wingspan of the largest of them reached 1 meter, and the body length did not exceed 60 centimeters. They weighed no more than 2 kilograms. And the largest flying creatures of the era of dinosaurs, and indeed the entire history of the planet, belonged to the Azhdarchid family and lived at the end of the Cretaceous period. It's still a mystery to many how these giants were able to fly at all, but it's very likely that even with their enormous size, all giant pterosaurs had very small, relative to size, mass. The largest representatives of this family were the following animals. Tropaeonathus. This is a separate genus of pterosaurs from the Ornithoceridae family. It was discovered less than 40 years ago in Brazil. The age of the find dates back to the beginning of the Cretaceous period, approximately 110 million years ago. So far, only one species is classified as Tropaeonathus. Its wingspan definitely exceeded 8 meters, and the height of this lizard could reach 170 centimeters. According to some estimates, Tropaeonathus could weigh up to 100 kilograms. Therefore, it's believed that they could take off only after a short run. Tropaeonathus had a rather interestingly shaped beak. At its end, there were large vertical thickenings. This peculiar keel gave the name to this pterosaur. Literally, it translates as keel jaw. Scientists believe that Tropaeonathus hunted by dipping its beak into the water while flying. The presence of a keel prevented the beak from yawning along the course. Inside its mouth were thin, sharp teeth, perfectly adapted for catching and holding fish. But perhaps Tropaeonathus did not disdain baby dinosaurs and other small land animals. Thanatos dragon. This pterosaur is considered the largest flying creature in the history of South America. Its name means dragon of death. The species name of this lizard also contains the name of the ancient god of the Peruvian Indians, Amaru. The remains of 2 individuals of the new pterosaur were discovered in Argentina in 2022. After studying them, the wingspan of this giant was estimated at 7 to 9, and its height was 3.5 meters. The fossils found are very fragmentary. Therefore, scientists know very little about Thanatos dragons so far. The age of the finds estimated at approximately 86 to 89 million years. Quetzalcoatlus. This genus from the Azhdarchid family was discovered and described much earlier than most of its relatives. Therefore, it is the best known and most studied of them. They lived in North America around 66 to 68 million years ago. The first fossilized remains of Quetzalcoatlus were found in the United States in 1971. Initially, its wingspan was estimated at 15 to 20 meters, but later studies showed that this parameter was no more than 11 to 12 meters. But even so, this lizard became the largest flying creature in the history of the planet. While on land, Quetzalcoatlus had a height comparable to modern giraffes. This is about 5.5 meters. The most heated debate is still ongoing over the body mass of this giant. Various researchers voice figures from 70 to 540 kilograms. Built in 1984, the flying model weighed about 80 kilograms. This aircraft was created to simulate the flight of Quetzalcoatlus. It was controlled by a simple computer autopilot and showed good aerodynamic capabilities of large pterosaurs. But still, most scientists agree that in order to fly, such giants needed a runway or a high launch pad, a rock or a large tree. Cryodragon. This species of pterosaur lived in what is now Canada, approximately 76.5 million years ago. It was for this reason that they were given a family name, meaning frosty or ice dragon. The specific name Boreas is the name of the ancient Greek god of the north wind. Also, when describing and choosing the name of a new species from the Azhdarchid family, an option was considered to call it Cryodragon Viserys. This was the name of one of the dragons in the series of books by George R.R. Martin and the TV series Game of Thrones, based on them. It was this dragon that was killed by the Night King and turned into an ice one. The remains of this giant lizard were discovered back in 1972, but then they were described as just another Quetzalcoatl. The error was corrected only in 2019, when a group of scientists re-examined the find. As a result, several differences between the cryodragon and its related Quetzalcoatlus were discovered. The wingspan of the found individual was about 5 meters, but scientists believe this pterosaur was not yet fully grown. It's believed that its maximum wingspan could be approximately 2 times greater, and adult ice dragons could weigh up to 250 kilograms. Hatzegopteryx. This large European pterosaur was related to Quetzalcoatlus. It lived in Romania at the very end of the Cretaceous period. In terms of wingspan, Hatzegopteryx is quite comparable to its overseas relative, but their height was slightly shorter due to their shorter and more powerful neck. This feature of the body may also indicate differences in the way of nutrition. With such a body structure, this predator could hunt not only fish and small animals, but large dinosaurs could also be prey. Arenbergiana. This type of pterosaur was discovered in the early 40s of the last century, but scientists currently have very few fossils to describe it in detail. Initial studies showed that the wingspan of this lizard was even greater than that of the Quetzalcoatlus, but later descriptions reduced this size to just about 7 to 9 meters. Undoubtedly, Azhdarchids are the largest flying creatures in the entire history of the Earth, but at the same time, creatures such as Pteranodontus lived with them and competed with them. These piscivorous pterosaurs lived in the United States and Japan. Their wingspan couldn't exceed 7 meters. The main distinguishing feature of this group of pterosaurs was an elongated, sharp beak, completely devoid of teeth. But 66 million years later, all pterosaurs became extinct as a result of climate change across the planet caused by the fall of a huge meteorite. But only the most progressive group of flying dinosaurs, birds, managed to survive the cataclysm. The largest of them were flightless and even occupied the niche of top predators in some regions. But even among the flyers, there were their giants. They became the masters of the air elements and remain so to this day. About 25 million years ago, a genus of bird called Palagornis appeared. They lived in Europe, North Africa, and both American continents. The name Palagornis translates as seabird. In fact, these giants fully lived up to their name. It's believed that their lifestyle coincided with that of the wandering albatross now. This bird has the largest wingspan of any living species. It's up to 3.5 meters. The albatrosses weigh no more than 10 kilograms. The body length of Palagornis was up to 2 meters, and the wingspan was up to 7.5 meters. They weighed from 20 to 32 kilograms. They had a skull of up to 60 centimeters long. A characteristic feature of these birds were bizarre outgrowths on the inner surface of the beak. These outgrowths vaguely resembled teeth and may have performed similar functions. Palagornis became extinct about 2 million years ago. Another giant bird, Argentavis, lived in South America. It was first discovered in 1980 in Argentina, which is how it got its name. They lived in these places from 6 to 9 million years ago. With a height of just over 125 centimeters and a body length of about 2 meters, the wingspan of Argentavis was 5 to 6 meters. But the Argentavis were much more massive than Palagornis. According to some estimates, their body weight could reach up to 70 kilograms. The length of their skull was up to 45 centimeters with a sharp hook-shaped beak. And based on its structure, scientists concluded that Argentavis was an active predator, not a scavenger. It's believed that the basis of its diet were large rodents. Researchers suggest that the bird fell onto a group of rodents from a great height. Then the predator simply swallowed the wounded or stunned animals. In many ways, scientists determined the appearance and habits of Argentavis by comparing it with the Andean condor or harpy eagle. Condors, although scavengers, are considered the most massive flying bird in the world. The weight of their males can reach 15 kilograms, and their wingspan is 3 meters. By studying their behavior, one can understand how such a heavy bird as Argentavis behaved in flight or set up nests. In harpies, females are larger. They can weigh up to 9 kilograms. The wingspan of this forest eagle from South America can be about 2 meters. The harpy is an active predator and is distinguished by great strength and a powerful beak. At one time, it was considered an honorable and dangerous prize among the local Indians, and the farmers simply waged a long war with them. After all, harpies easily dragged away poultry and even dogs. As a result, this predator is now listed in the Red Book. Modern birds, in comparison with their ancestors, are not large in size, and arthropods and reptiles now don't even think of rising high into the sky. But evolution doesn't stand still. Perhaps someday there will be creatures capable of displacing birds from their leading positions and becoming the new masters of the sky. But for now, the sky is increasingly roamed by man-made birds, created by the most dangerous predator, man. We're so grateful to everyone who watches our episodes to the very end. If you're interested in the history of the appearance of other living creatures, we recommend that you pay attention to other videos on the Age of Dinosaurs channel. From them, you'll learn not only about various prehistoric animals, but also about the peculiarities of the development of human society and its relationship with living nature.